And what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Bleacher Report app. And the Jaguars are very good at breaking our hearts, man. The Jaguars lose this one 30-27. And honestly, a pretty exciting game. I know the Jaguars have lost a lot worse games, and it was back and forth. There were lead changes. The Jaguars are playing a really good Packers team, but unfortunately, the Packers going into this game were 5-2. The Jaguars were 2-5. The Jaguars allowed the Packers to, come back and win this game at home in Jacksonville, unfortunately, in front of a lot of Packers fans. I mean, us Jaguar fans know all too well that, these opposing teams, especially teams like, I've seen the Packers, the 49ers, the Cowboys did it recently, the Browns, Steelers seem to do it. Like, these teams come in here and they show up and show out, and it feels like, unfortunately, the Jaguars as a franchise just allow these visiting teams and fan bases a nice little vacation in Florida. And the Jaguars find a way to lose 30-27. They yeah, they are. It stinks because, man, this is it feels like it's not a bad team, but they don't come up clutch. And unfortunately, I think a lot of it just comes down to coaching, man. When you're consistently in these situations, the Jaguars have a lot of self-inflicting stuff when it comes to, so many pre-snap penalties today. I mean, there were a lot of like illegal formations. I wouldn't say play calling is questionable, but even on the, when Malik Willis won the game on, basically the game-winning throw down the field, like, just the defense couldn't come up clutch. The defensive coaching and just the execution of the players just hasn't been good all season. And yeah, the Jaguars unfortunately suffer today because of it. So let me go back and recap this one a little bit. We can go and see that, Green Bay Packers start off with the ball. They punted back to the Jaguars. The Jaguars got the ball back, and then they punted. The Jaguars started off the game pretty bad. Green Bay bought the ball back 3 and out. The Jaguars got the ball back 3 and out. So Green Bay got the ball back again, and then they had a long drive, and then Jarian Jones wound up intercepting the ball. Shout out to the rookie, his first interception of the season. The Jaguars got the ball back very quickly and threw an interception. So at this point, each team just kind of trading the possessions. After 6 possessions, there were no scores in this game. And then finally, the Green Bay Packers took the ball and basically had a touchdown drive. So the Jaguars get the ball back down 7-0, and Jaguars go 3 and out. Okay. Then the Green Bay Packers get the ball back and get a field goal. So at this point, the Jaguars are down 10-0. The Jaguars don't even have a first down yet this game. Okay. And then the second to last drive of the game, the second to last drive of the half for the Jaguars. The Jaguars get a 6-play, 70-yard drive. 3:26 was the time of the drive, and Trevor Lawrence is able to get a touchdown rush. So it was the first time the Jaguars actually showed a pulse on offense. They drove down pretty quickly. Okay, so the Jaguars cut the lead 10-7, and then the Green Bay Packers got the ball back after they got a field goal. It was kind of crappy the way it happened. So the Jaguars line up this 4th and 5. McManus kicks like a 40-plus yard field goal, and then he makes it, but then whistles on the play. So we all figure, there must have been a false start, maybe a delay game. Not much else happens here, but the Jaguars pre-snap did a big shift. And, the officiating guy that comes on Fox Sports basically says that this has been a point of emphasis for NFL teams this offseason. I know it's not common knowledge amongst fans because I didn't really know it was a point of emphasis, but yeah, the Jaguars got called for it and they gave the Packers a free first down. So this is another coaching point. Like, this is a point of emphasis, and that means the special teams coach is teaching players you can't do this stuff, and they did it. 2 players shifted right before it. So they got the ball back. But, the Jaguars let up 1 field goal, and they still, not much time went off the clock. And then they got another field goal, so just a little bit of time off the clock. But then, Trevor Lawrence was able to drive the Jaguars, had 2 really good throws. One, I believe, was to Brian Thomas Jr., and one was to think it was Parker Washington on that drive. And the Jaguars were able to set themselves up in a field goal situation. And the Jaguars were down 13-10 at the half. So, well, the game started off very sketchy for the Jaguars. It ended decently, okay? It was 13-10. The Jaguars' offense was finally showing some kind of a pulse, and the Jags deferred, so they got the ball back to start the second half. And unfortunately, the Jaguars went 3 and out. And this seems like the Jaguars, they defer, and so oftentimes they get the ball back to start the second half, and it's very flat. We rarely ever go down and really do anything with it. So the Jaguars unfortunately go 3 and out. And then next up, Green Bay punts the ball. Then at this point, Malik Willis is in the game for the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love got hurt early on in this game, and he kept playing through the injury, but he was clearly hurt and he was hobbling around like he never looked comfortable. And then at some point, after a play, Trayvon Walker just kind of comes up to him and bumps him a little bit. I mean, nothing egregious. It's one of those things that, like, Trayvon Walker didn't necessarily have to bump him, but NFL players, they play within the a certain scope that they're allowed to play in. Like, the bump wasn't necessary, but you never get called for that. And he just kind of bumped him a little bit, and Jordan Love kind of fell in it awkwardly. And then from that point, that knocked him out of the game. I mean, Trayvon Walker basically bumped him out of the game. So for the rest of the game, Malik Willis was in the game. After they punted, the Jaguars scored a touchdown on a good drive, and then Green Bay Packers answered with a touchdown. And unfortunately, probably the worst play of the game, Trevor Lawrence fumbled at their own 5-yard line. And Trevor Lawrence and his whole career has been very bad at fumbling, but give him credit. He's been a lot better this year about it. But he fumbled the ball, unfortunately. So, yeah, and then Green Bay just took the ball and just second play, they scored a touchdown. So, that was unfortunate. And at this point, the Jaguars are down 10 points. Jaguars are down 10 points at this point. Oh, wait, apologies. No, they're down 7, I should say. And then, yeah, Jaguars get the ball back. They go 3 and out. Christian Kirk got hurt. Green Bay, once they kick it off, or once they punt the ball off, Green Bay got a 3 and out. And the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence, like, it was one of these situations where it's like, okay, Trevor, a lot of haters out there. I know when I stream these games, a lot of haters out there about Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence had some mistakes. He obviously had the interception. He had the fumble, 2 backbreaking things. And he had, I think, one bad throw on a third down that should have been better, and it stopped us from moving the chains. But overall, I thought Trevor Lawrence, he was making some really good throws, okay? So on this drive, it's like, all right, Trevor, do your thing. Show all the haters that you are him, that you are a franchise quarterback. And Trevor Lawrence drove the ball down the field with ease, okay? He was nailing guys wide. He was nailing guys. He was reading the field good, and he hit Evan Ingram right in the middle of 3 players, put it in a perfect spot. Evan Ingram made a perfect grab, and it was a touchdown, okay? It was a touchdown, and the Jaguars tied the game, okay? It's all to the defense. Defense, it's up to you guys. Hold them to a stop. There's also plenty of time left on the clock. Let me see how much time exactly was left. There was the Jaguars scored with 1:48 left in the game. They still had 2 timeouts. So the Jaguars went out there and forced potentially a 3 and out, called a couple of timeouts. The Jaguars could have got the ball back with at least 1 minute left in the game. This is if Green Bay runs, and punts it to us. Would have got the ball back with at least a minute. And then with the way Trevor Lawrence the last couple of drives was going, could have set ourselves up with a game-winning field goal. But the defense, which has been very up and down all year, the defense had a good first half, but just defense, they never come in clutch for us, man. Like, they started off the game pretty good, of course, like when the Jaguars were going 3 and out, not getting any yardage. I mean, they were holding their own, okay? They were holding their own, got themselves a turnover in the first half, but man, when they need to clutch it up, they just don't. And the Achilles heel of the Jaguars defense all year has been a safety play. Andre Cisco has been terrible this year, and they let a guy wide open right down the sidelines, and Jaguars never got to touch the ball again. They got the ball. They went down to the 3-yard line, and former Jaguar Brandon McManus kicks the ball, kicks the game-winning field goal, and the Green Bay Packers won 30-27. And the Jaguars dropped 2-6. I said before this game that the Jaguars, to be safe, need to go 10-7 to make the playoffs. But let's call it lucky. Let's say they needed to go 9-8. For the Jaguars to go 9-8, down the stretch, they needed to go 7-2. Okay. They need to go 7-3, I should say, to go 9-8. The Jaguars lost today. So now when you recalibrate things, the Jaguars now to get to 9-8 need to go 7-2 down the stretch. Need to go 7-2 to go 10-7, which is more likely to make the playoffs. You need to go 8-1. Okay. So we can pack our bags. This season is over. Unless the Jaguars are going to do something miraculous. I mean, we've been in these situations like you play the Green Bay Packers tight, but a lot of these NFL games are tight. Okay, and the better teams wins at the end. And there's a reason why the Packers are 6-2. Packers are a good team. They're very well coached. Jordan Love goes out, and the coach knows exactly what to do with Malik Willis. And I think the Jaguars weren't really maybe respecting Malik Willis enough at the very end. And honestly, I might have played it very similar, but you need the players to execute. I mean, load up the box, make Malik Willis beat you, and Malik Willis made a good throw, but at the same time, he was wide open. I mean, that ball could have been thrown anywhere within he could have turned around and caught a back shoulder. I mean, that guy was wide open along the sidelines, and he runs all the way down, and the Jaguars don't get the ball back, and it's just so terribly coached team. It's, we have true talent on this team, which – I'm saying that the Jaguars at the end of the season will clean house, and this would be an attractive job, okay? Like, the Jaguars have talent. I mean, they have quarterback Trevor Lawrence, who I truly believe in. You especially look at a guy like Ben Johnson, where he turned around Jared Goff's career when Jared Goff was, quite frankly, at a much lower point than Trevor Lawrence. And Jared Goff is a very similar player to him, but yeah, the Jaguars organizationally just stink. The coaching staff stinks. Once again, the Jaguars' second-round pick and Mason Smith is inactive. Not really getting a whole lot of answers there. We probably won't. I mean, I guess just Doug Peterson and the crew don't think he's very good. And that is making Trent Baalke pretty upset. Okay, so there's clearly tension there. The bones of this team aren't good. The culture, you let, a team come in here and beat us from up north. And, yeah, the Jaguars have one win at home this year. It's a shame. It's a shame. Shout out to all the season ticket holders out there. I am sorry. Can't really do much about it, but we can go ahead and go into the box score here. Trevor Lawrence, I thought, played a good game. He had some mistakes, but he made a lot of big-time throws, I thought, today. Made a lot of big-time throws. Trevor Lawrence was 21-32 today, which let me see pull out my old calculator. 21 divided by 32. That is a 66% completion percentage, okay? 308 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He was sacked once today. Thought he had a good game, like I said. Made some mistakes. The fumble can't happen, but he did enough good things to come back and win this one. I mean, look, the Jaguars put up 27 points this game. Put the game in a situation where the defense could just 3-and-out Malik Willis, okay, 3-and-out them. I had no doubt that if the Jaguars got the ball back with a minute left at their own 30, they would have gone down the field and gotten a field goal. I mean, the Jaguars' offense was feeling itself toward the end, and they just didn't do it. But, yeah, I thought Trevor Lawrence played a good game, to be honest. And, look, the haters can say what they want. Trevor Lawrence had a good game. We look at the passing game. Oof, I don't even want to get into this, but Brian Thomas Jr. had himself 3 receptions, 60 yards, and 1 touchdown. But unfortunately, he hurt himself on a touchdown, okay? Like, Brian Thomas Jr. has been having this issue where he's, like, not catching the ball clean in the end zone. He keeps double catching it. And, I mean, he generally comes down with a touchdown, but this one, the guy landed on the ball, and I guess he hurt a rib. I mean, he was questionable returning, never came back in the game. So I don't know if it's a broken rib. I hope it's not. I hope it's just a pain thing. But he never came back in the game. But the Jaguars really didn't need him back because, the Jaguars offense was, they tied a ball game. They did what they needed to do in crunch time. The Jaguars, they were able to go down there and do some stuff. So, yeah. Next up, Brenton Strange had the second most receiving yards, 5 receptions for 59 yards. And, I know Evan Ingram, he never you obviously never hope for injury, but the one thing, the one positive to Evan Ingram getting hurt is that I think you've seen Brenton Strange emerge a lot. He had one really good reception where he just bowled somebody over. Happy National Tight End Day or whatever it is to Brenton Strange, and he had himself 5 receptions for 59 yards. So he's becoming, pretty good threat in the receiving game for the Jaguars. Christian Kirk, 2 receptions for 59 yards. And man, he had one deep ball. It was a good throw by Trevor. It was dropped, but he was in a lot of pain. I mean, he was in some obvious physical pain, and he left. He went to the locker room. He was, and he was out. Was injury destination, and it looked to me like a broken collarbone. I'm no medical expert. I don't think any word is out about what it is, but yeah, it looked pretty bad. It looked pretty bad. Which is rough because we were all talking about maybe him being on a trading block. Maybe the Jaguars get a 4th or 5th round pick from him, get him off the books. So then, you have a guy that you drafted in Parker Washington that probably is a cheaper option than him. And I don't know how much the drop off really is. I know that's probably and that's no disrespect to Christian Kirk. He's been a really good player for us, but this will be, 2 out of 3 years for Christian Kirk that he's ending the year on the IR. I know it's broken collarbone, kind of a freak thing, but that's just the facts about it. Parker Washington, 3 receptions for 46 yards. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is dealing it around. Evan Ingram, 4 catches for 36 yards, including the one really good touchdown where he split the triple team. Dearness had himself a reception for 20 yards on the game tying drive for the Jaguars. So yeah, the receiving game good. Tank Bigsby once again has a really good game for himself. 18 rushes for 78 yards. No touchdowns, but Tank Bigsby just sees the field really well. He's a very, very exciting player for the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence had himself 4 carries for 10 yards, including 1 touchdown carry. So 3 total touchdowns for Trevor Lawrence this game. Like I said, I thought this is a game where, while you can't really excuse the turnovers, I thought Trevor Lawrence made some of the most plays this game that I've seen him kind of have all year. So that's how the Jaguars offense was looking. Defensively, shout out to Jarrian Jones. I think this is the 2nd interceptions for the Jaguars on the season, and obviously Jarrian Jones' first interception as a Jaguar and as a rookie. So he's a 3rd round pick, so it's good to see from him. The Jaguars, Ronald Darby got hurt, so we saw a lot of Monteric Brown in there. We saw a lot of DeAndre Prince in the game for the Jaguars out of Ole Miss. And Tyson Campbell had himself a really good game too since coming back. I mean, he was pretty much locked down today. I think there was like 1 catch on him where the guy just ran a pretty good out route and he got himself a first down. But yeah, Tyson Campbell, really good cornerback. And I was worried about him with a hamstring injury, about maybe him returning too early, but he's been really good since coming back. And, he's seeing himself some more snaps as the season goes along. Since this is his 2nd game back from injury. Foye Oluokun back, and getting Tyson Campbell and Foye Oluokun back is huge. I mean, just the defense is a whole lot better with them. Foye Oluokun had himself 4 tackles, 5 assisted. Ventrell Miller once again leads the stat sheet with 5 tackles. Ventrell Miller, while he's not great maybe at pass protection, he's really good at stopping the run. Monteric Brown was having himself a pretty rough game to start in coverage, but I thought he ended off pretty good. And, he had himself some pretty good plays in run coverage. So, he's a pretty good 7th round pick that the Jaguars found. When you look at the sack category, Josh Hines Allen had himself half a sack. Trayvon Walker had himself half a sack. So 1 total sack for the Jaguars. And yeah, overall, like defensively, it's just disappointing. I mean, there were some plays made, but just not getting enough pressure on a quarterback for me. Like, I mean, Jordan Love, while he was in there, had too much time. The Jaguars weren't really, I don't know, just not making enough big plays, I guess I should say. So when you go to special teams, Cam Little, 2 for 2 on field goals, 3 for 3 on extra points. He made a couple of long 40-plus yard field goals. I think one was 47 and 49 yards. So Cam Little, we definitely have ourselves our kicker. I think he has right now the highest most field goals for a rookie in Jaguars history, and highest percentage of field goals made. So he's been a really, really good piece for the Jaguars. And when you look at team stats, I mean, defensively, I mean, man, Josh Jacobs had himself way too many yards this game. 25 carries for 127 yards, 5.1 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. And the frustrating thing about this is that when Jordan Love went down, it was like, all right, like, they just want to run the ball. And the Jaguars somehow, when Jordan Love left the game and Malik Willis was in there, they were somehow worse at stopping the run. It was like, like, they're going to run it. And just, man, like one of the touchdown drives, I mean, man, he had himself a 38-yard touchdown run, and the Jaguars just couldn't stop him. I mean, definitely at the top of my head, most dominant game by running back against us. Jaguars just could not stop him. Receiving, Kraft had himself 3 receptions, 78 yards. Dobbs had himself 3 receptions for 72 yards. Jordan Reed, 2 receptions for 55 yards. So, yeah, the Jaguars just were decent in the first half, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And the Jaguars, they just couldn't clutch up. Okay, the offense, I thought, put them in a situation where, at the very end of the game, we can talk about how maybe the first half the Jaguars offense wasn't putting them in good situations. You can even talk about like when Trevor Lawrence fumbled. Look, that touchdown isn't necessarily on a defense; it's on Trevor Lawrence and the offense. Okay, but the offense got the Jaguars back in a position where all you needed to do was just stop them. You can even run out the clock, just, maybe go into overtime. Just don't let them get in field goal range, and boom, just like that, they got in field goal range. They were in victory formation at the end of the game, and they kicked the most manageable field goal of all times. And I'm sorry, when I was recapping this, I got a field goal missed in there. So when I was recapping the drives, but yeah, the Jaguars in the fourth quarter, I guess in the second half, I mean, Jaguars put up 17 and the Packers put up 17. So obviously less than ideal. I don't know if anybody's fired after this. I would like it to be, but Shad Khan is very hard to predict. And I mean, I don't know what firing Doug Peterson or whatever does at this point. If you fire Doug Peterson, you have to fire his little buddy Press Taylor with him because they're so tight at the hip. And that just is what it is. But real quick, I'm running a little bit over, so I do want to shift to just looking at Twitter. I know we like to do that. Tough one, yeah. Jaguars defense, one embarrassing display in the second half. Let me go ahead and refresh this because I just searched this before this thing started. Trevor Lawrence today, 2 pass touchdowns, 1 rush touchdown, 308 yards, 66% completion percentage, 104.7 passer rating. Walked down one of the best defenses tied the game while missing wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and wide receiver 3. Yeah, and that's another thing. I'm not really sure what happened to Gabe Davis. He was out at the end of the game. But, yeah, Trevor Lawrence, he's the least of the Jaguars' issue. And that's why once we do fire, like, Doug and everybody, I think this is an attractive job just because, like, you compare this to, like, the Tennessee Titans or anybody, like, it's just much more attractive. So, Jaguars lost a lot today. The season is done. Kirk, Brian Thomas Jr., Gabe Davis, Cleveland, all injured and lost. Okay, so Gabe Davis was injured. Trade deadline looms. Got to believe a player or two could be on the move. Another miserable November and December and January ahead in Jacksonville. Yeah, so, the season's over by November. So we had to go through all of November, all of December, knowing that season is done, which is a shame because we've been here way too often before. This is how the Jaguars offense looks right now. Pretty much. I would do anything for Ben Johnson, the coach of Jaguars. Only one man can save this team. Dewey's being a little bit overrated, okay? Don't try to act like Dewey is a fixture of this. Jaguars were 2-6 in 2022, too. Okay, what else to tell you at this point? I guess there is that. Jaguars had 15 yards of offense in the first quarter. Their 5th quarter this season with no more than 15 total yards this season. So, yeah, that was very early on. Although the Jaguars' loss was a virtual guarantee the moment Trevor Lawrence threw what should have been a game-winning touchdown pass, this marks one of the lowest moments to do all franchise history. To see their quarterback deliver again in the clutch, playing at MVP level, outplaying Jordan Love and vastly superior defensive competition, only to see The worst defense in pro football in their truest form. Yeah, guys, it's absolutely bad. So let me do a Trevor Lawrence search, see what the NFL is saying about this guy. Trevor Lawrence, the last 4 games. Here, I'm gonna pause this. I don't want copyright. Trevor Lawrence last 4 weeks, 87 for 121, 72% completion percentage, 1,106 yards. That's 277 yards per game, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 109 passer rating. Yeah. We're wasting this guy, you know? Trevor Lawrence just went, let me pause this. I'm sorry. Trevor Lawrence just went 6 for 8, 1 drop, 87 yards, and the game tying touchdown, despite playing with a backup left tackle, backup running back, 2 backup wide receivers, and 2 tight ends playing in 11 personnel. Yeah. Yeah. We were wheeling and dealing, passing to Tim Jones, Ernest Johnson, Parker Washington. It's a freaking shame, man. It really is a shame. Thoughts. Trevor Lawrence is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He walked down one of the best defenses in the league with all 3 of receivers out. How? Ryan Nielsen must be fired. All in all, I don't hate that outcome in that game. Helps us out get fired quicker. And yeah, this is some good silver lining, honestly. Like, I'm not rooting for losses. Like, honestly, I'm not that mad after this one just because the idea of turning this thing around and actually making the playoffs is just ridiculous. So, yeah, I mean, getting the higher draft pick just makes this job that much more attractive for the next guy. And yeah, Trevor Lawrence walked the Packers defense down to tie it while missing BTJ. Yeah, we kind of saw that. Yeah. Trevor Lawrence's 22nd career loss fumble, which is the most in franchise history. He was tied with David Grohl. I think that's only his 2nd fumble loss this year, I believe. I think he had one against okay, I don't want to read that. Look, who is this guy? Okay. Genuinely appalled that people sit down every Sunday, watch football, and tell you that Trevor Lawrence is a good football player. I don't think they saw the end of the game. I mean, there were some thoughts in the first half, obviously, when we weren't moving the ball, but I mean, just it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And man, he finished really good. Trevor Lawrence legacy. And honestly, at the end of the game, this was really giving me big time Baltimore Ravens in 2022 vibes. Just the way like the Jaguars turned around, they were scoring. The only thing that was missing was a 2-point conversion. Obviously, they didn't do that. And I was a fan of not going for it. And I would have said, like, at the very end of the game, if you had Jordan Love playing, I would have gone for 2, just because I was like, the defense ideally should be able to stop Malik Willis, but they didn't. I had too much trust in this defense. Yeah. We lost, but absolutely love Trevor Lawrence what he did in this game. He was so locked in. Yeah, and a lot of people talk about, Trevor Lawrence is fire. He doesn't have it, dude. After that touchdown throw, he was talking some smack to some of these Texans people, or not Texans, some of these players on the other side. So that was good to see. So yeah, we're gonna get this thing away from Twitter. But yeah, this is rough game, obviously. I mean, this is what it is. I had already given up hope on the Jaguars before this game. It was going to take monumental effort to be able to come back and be able to make a shot at the playoffs, especially when you look at the upcoming schedule. I mean, out of this Green Bay game, you have the Eagles. I mean, in no particular order, you have the Eagles, you have Lions, you have Vikings, and you have Texans. So, like, it's tough 4 games. I mean, at this point, it's just win for bragging rights. Let's beat the Texans. I think the Texans won today. Let me take a look. Yeah, Texans won. So are they 4-0 against the AFC South? Let's see. No, they're 3-0. They swept the Colts. 1-0 against the Jaguars. We can't let them march to the AFC South. So yeah, beat them. Beat the Titans, beat your division opponents, okay? Win your home games. Like, fans pay all this money, thousands of dollars for season tickets, and you give them a terrible product. But all right, guys, we're reaching 30 minutes. I got to get out of here. Thank you to Bleach Report for having me on. Guys, stay locked into Bleach Report this whole entire season, man. Great news and updates for all your different sports teams and, all your different leagues. We have, World Series going on right now. We have NBA season starting back up. Lots of fun going on right now with the NFL. Maybe not with the Jaguars, but just around the sports league in general. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm out of here. Go Jags.